Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
Not one was man enough to go in there. 77 minutes.
Most of those kids were my friends.
There is a need to tackle the causes of climate change.
Congressional Republicans want to strip away rights.
We are demanding that the United States Congress codify Roe.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
We are demanding that the United States Congress codify Roe. Welcome in, News and Views, Tom, Benny, and Clark. So there was a bunch of the left-wing nut jobs being arrested up in D.C., including AOC, who she was arrested. If you're watching on Facebook, April 7th. She's arrested, and they're all pretending as if they're in handcuffs. She got a big, stupid grin on her face, walking across. And then she puts up her fist. She wants them to think I'm in handcuffs. Somebody hollers something out to her, and she raises her fist like, well, how can you raise your fist if you're in handcuffs? But, you know, the Capitol Police said, hey, clear it out. They gave them 3 warnings. They were blocking the street in front of the Supreme Court. And you had, what was it, like 16 or 17 Democrats arrested.
Including a Democrat from North Carolina.
Alma Adams, the hat lady. At the same time that AOC and the rest of the squad and a bunch of others, 16 members of Congress apparently, 34 were arrested, 16, half of them, a little less than half were members of Congress. At the same time, Kamala Harris, just off of her speech to the NAACP, saying that the fact that the Supreme Court did away with Roe, and now Roe is no longer on the federal level. Now the states will decide whether or not abortion will be legal, each of our 50 states. Now that has happened, Kamala Harris is saying, hey, you know what? This is akin to slavery. This is the same as slavery. Now, consider the fact that Margaret Sanger was a devout racist, a eugenist, who wanted to, she wanted Planned Parenthood.
Genocide.
Yeah.
She believed in genocide, plain and simple.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There is a story out just today of Planned Parenthood trying to put a clinic in a high school in California where the attendance by minorities is something like 80% of the students there are minority, and they want to put a Planned Parenthood clinic right in the high school. You can't make it up. Margaret Sanger might be 6 feet under, but as she hears Kamala Harris carrying the water for her, she's got to have a big grin on her face.
What part of California do you remember?
I don't remember.
Bay Area, maybe?
I think it was
Berkeley?
out in the Bay Area somewhere, yeah. I might have it here in my pile. But, speaking of arrogant idiots, this Prince Harry story, this guy makes me barf. So he's speaking to an empty United Nations hall. During his remarks, he slams the United States. Quote, we're rolling back constitutional rights. Harry, have you ever read the Constitution? I seriously doubt it. He lamented over the global assault on democracy. The global assault. How about the sovereignty of nations, Harry? And listen, Harry, if you don't like us, leave. Don't let the door hit you in the fanny on the way out.
I thought he was a Canadian now. Were they in Canada or were they in the United States? I guess
they've got nothing speaks to a lifetime of struggle for equality than an estranged royal living in exile in an $18 million estate out in California.
Yeah, that spent his 20s and 30s in a drunken haze, basically.
I'm so tired of these brats, whether it's AOC or Prince Harry, who have never had a real job a day in their life. They'd never have had. Now, AOC was a bartender. I guess she had to work for a while there. But, Harry gets his royal allowance, which per month is more than most Americans get in a year. And again, if America is so bad, Harry, leave. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. Don't come here and lecture us.
I saw the video feed. I forget what news station was on him speaking, and they showed the crowd. And I think because I'm here today, I think there's more in the studio now than there was and for his UN speech. Oh, and who was he representing? I mean, why does he get to speak at the UN?
Because it's the UN, and he is carrying the water for their agenda. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, you could probably get a time up given an address to the UN if you were liberal enough.
Yeah, probably could. But he does not represent the royal family in anything now, right? He's kind of like outside of the royal family. Or?
Well, I would say from their vantage point, he is, yeah.
He probably just gets a check. He just can't say that he's part of the royal family.
Yeah, but he still gets his allowance. Oh, yeah. Speaking of the squad, Fox News is reporting Representative Cori Bush has injected nearly $400,000 of campaign funds into her private security services while refusing to tone down her calls for defunding the police. Yeah, this is a federal filing.
And the truth of the matter is, in her district that she represents, based on her crazy liberal policies and the liberal policies of the Democrat mayor that's there, heck, it's not safe for anyone.
No.
But
she spent $90,000 just last quarter.
Oh, my goodness.
Just last quarter on security for herself.
Mm. And she's another George Soros-backed candidate, I believe.
Yeah.
Didn't he
probably
a bunch of money in her campaign?
Wouldn't surprise me. The good news is, according to Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, former governor, he was on Fox News and described what will happen to the Democrats in 2022 in a single word. The word he used was bloodbath. Scott says inflation will be the key issue in the November elections. This is hurting so many people in my state. I think it's going to be a bloodbath for the Democrats this year. This is not going to be about 24. It's going to be about 22. It's going to be about three issues: inflation. Are my kids getting a good education? Can I live in a safe community? And the Democrats are wrong on all of those issues. The senator who serves as the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee said Republicans should retake control of the Senate. We're going to have a great year, he said, predicting Republicans could pick up 6 Senate seats this fall. You know, there have been predictions out, and I it's still a long way away. And I'm not trying to be a wet blanket, but Republicans have the ability to grab victory out of the jaws of, or grab defeat out of the jaws of victory. He was on with Shannon Bream. Shannon Bream brought up the fact that, well, what is the GOP plan for inflation? And I'm thinking, here's our plan. Everything that Joe Biden is doing will stop.
Yeah, just do the opposite. I mean, that would work.
But he said to make it simple, we've got to balance the budget. And here's the problem. I don't know that people in Washington, D.C., even Republicans, I mean, there's a few up there that will balance the budget, but the days of Walter Jones are gone, and there's very few people. Rand Paul, he probably would like a balanced budget. Apparently, Rick Scott would.
We don't have any North Carolina senators talking about it.
No.
And we've got some, congressmen that talk about it. Greg Murphy's certainly talked about it quite a bit. But the thing about it is, who's going to stick their neck out there and say, "Hey, it's time to cut it off. It's time to do something." And I'm not seeing the Republicans be very vocal about it at all.
I have said this since the day I started this program some 12 years ago. We have got to bring into the way we do politics term limits. Because I'm sorry, everybody that gets up there, from Richard Burr to Tom Tillis, the only person I would say that wasn't really concerned with term limits, well, even Walter Jones, when he was up there, he had a pledge to sign off on the Newt Gingrich contract with America, which included term limits, and that went by the wayside. And I'm not ragging on Walter. I love Walter. He's a good friend, God rest him. But until we get term limits, these people get up there and they run for re-election. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple. They get up there and they say, "Hey, you know what? I love the perks. I want to stay as long as possible." And as a result, they vote on things not which is best for America, but that which is best to get them reelected. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Independent, or a Republican.
Well, and to your discussion about, I'm not as optimistic as Rick Scott, because when you look at the North Carolina race just out today or yesterday, Sherry Beasley outraised Ted Budd, 6 or 7 to 1 or something, some crazy amount.
I'd love to see how much out-of-state funds.
Oh yeah, you know where it's coming
99%
from.
99% is out-of-state.
But they're spending a boatload of money on these Senate campaigns in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and some of the other key ones. And I don't know.
I don't know that you're going to be able to outspend the statistics and how bad the American voter is
I hope you're
feeling.
right. I hope you're right. The thing about it is things are getting so bad that even people that don't follow politics,
that's because it's in their face.
Yeah, it's in their face, and not only in their face. I mean, they see the numbers. They see fuel prices. They see food prices. They see rent prices. Not only that, there's no answers out of Joe Biden, none, other than blaming Putin. I mean, how long can they keep saying Putin, 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 Putin? Trump. Give me a break. I mean, the fuel prices have slid a little bit, obviously.
And they're bragging about it.
And they're bragging about it. But before, wait a minute. The president doesn't have any control of the gas prices.
Good point.
That's what was saying just a few months ago. And I'm like, what?
But now suddenly he does. It's gone down. It's doubled since he took office, and now it's come back by about, 15% maybe, 10%?
Yeah, and a White House correspondent yesterday, other than Peter Doocy, might have been from CBS. I can't remember. It was from a network. They actually hit the press secretary, well, maybe it was assistant press secretary, on that issue of, okay, why can you take credit now for prices going down when before you said you couldn't control them, it was all Putin's fault? And, of course, the spin. Only an idiot would have to believe that stuff. But to your point, I just think there's too many things in the voters' faces for them to see if they don't follow politics that I just can't imagine. But Republicans have been pretty good at the pass of
blowing it.
Taking a big lead at halftime and blowing it.
Yeah. Speaking of in your face, Joe Biden's face is in the toilet. Even CNN is having to admit that. They came out with a new poll yesterday. Americans question Biden's priorities in this new poll from CNN that highlighted widespread displeasure with the direction of the country and where it is headed. The latest CNN poll showed that 68% of U.S. adults believe Biden's priorities are wrong and that the president hasn't paid enough attention to critical issues facing Americans like the economy and inflation. This is up 10% from where it was in November of 2021 when the data was last tracked according to the poll. As the midterms loom, Americans told CNN pollsters they don't believe the country where elected Democrats hold the highest office is headed in a safe direction. A safe direction. That's interesting that they use that word. I mean, we hear it as headed in the wrong direction, but we're not headed in a safe direction. The survey found that 75% of Americans believe the rising cost of living, including gas, energy, and food prices, is the biggest economic crisis facing U.S. families. The data showed that 79% of Americans said the U.S. is doing pretty or very badly. Pretty badly or very badly. And 34% said it is doing very badly. Only 1% of U.S. adults believe the country is doing very well. And only 21% think it is doing very or fairly well, according to the poll. Comparatively, in June of 2019, the poll showed that 18% of Americans felt the country was doing very well, and 57% said the U.S. was doing very or fairly well. In other words, the numbers are terrible for Joe. They are absolutely terrible for Joe. And if these, if these numbers were to flip today, and suddenly they went back to Donald Trump, okay, we know that's not going to happen. If it did, maybe Joe would not get a total shellacking, but we know that's not going to happen. Joe is in trouble. The Democrats are in trouble, and it is going to be election night is going to be a very enjoyable night for conservatives to sit around the TV and watch what happens.
Did you see this? Talking about polls, did you see the Civitas polls from Carolina Journal on young voters?
I talked about that, an article about that the other day, but go ahead.
Okay. Was that about the rent issue and
I did not mention the rent part.
Yeah, key issues that young voters are concerned about, other than fuel prices, like rent, for example. And the Civitas, they released a poll that says 6% of voters 18 to 14 disapprove of Biden. 60%. And they talked about the rent numbers in just Raleigh. In Raleigh alone, the average rent price in Raleigh is $1,500 a month, and there's less than 5% of apartments in Raleigh for less than $1,000 a month.
Wow.
And it's almost a 20% increase from last year this time.
I'm not sure if you can blame that entirely on Joe Biden, because Raleigh is one of the highest growth cities in the nation. But
all the cost components of building construction and rents and everything, it all flows through every product, and rent's one of them. I mean, if it costs 30-40% or more to build a property, then the rents are going to follow.
Bingo. Hey, we got to take a time out. Stay with us. News and Views for a Tuesday continues right after this.
Then get to Greenville Toyota. We're out to buy 500 local trades, and we'll buy you out with our best offer. Or trade in for a new Toyota and get our Greenville Advantage with no-cost lifetime maintenance and more. Don't miss the trade buyout at Greenville Toyota.
Hey, we're at Maribella's in Greenville, the new location of Maribella's on Fire Tower Road. If you haven't been to this place yet, let me tell you, you are missing out. I want to introduce my friends from Maribella's. I've got Sal, Massimo, and Pietro here. These guys are awesome. Not only do they make great food, they do a lot of things for the community, which we're going to be talking about. But Sal, let's start with you. Let's talk about the new location of Maribella's on Fire Tower Road. I'm a regular here. I love it. You guys call it Old World Pizza. Tell us what's different about your pizza.
Well, we got two kinds of pizzas. We have the traditional, American style, and then we have the Old World Pizza, which is made with fresh mozzarella, and the way they do it in Italy.
Massimo, when you talk about doing this food right, it's authentic. And when I talk about authentic, you grew up in Italy, so you grew up with this food. You know how to make it.
Yeah, because we grew up in Italy, we know the ingredient, and everything we do from scratch. And the right ingredient it's been hard for us to bring over here. And now finally we can get the right ingredient to make a right pizza.
All right, now I'm going to talk to my friend Pietro here at Maribella's. He's got the Nino's shirt on today. We're going to talk about Nino's, which is another great dining experience, upscale dining experience, on another segment upcoming. But Pietro, let's talk about Maribella's. For people who've never been to Maribella's, what's the experience going to be like when they come here? Not only pizzas, but pastas, salads, sandwiches, you got it all.
Yes, we do. We have new sandwiches that we put in this new location, and we're going to spread it to the other locations.
The guys here at Maribella's have won national pizza competitions, so you know it's good. Thanks to Sal, Massimo, and Pietro. Folks, do yourself a favor. Come to the new Maribella's here on Fire Tower Road in Greenville, or Maribella's on Greenville Boulevard, or Maribella's in Washington on Carolina Avenue. Also, don't forget upscale dining at Nino's on Red Banks Road.
It pays to pre-order at Greenville Toyota. Camrys, Corollas, Tundras, RAV4s, Highlanders, and more are on the way. Pre-order yours today. Plus, get more for your trade. It pays to pre-order at Greenville Toyota.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
No need to search for the facts.
The fact is, hold on. Let's see, they gave me,
Just take note.
Okay, it's 1 pound of ground beef, 1 egg. What is this? That's a recipe for meatloaf someone gave me. That's not...
And check in throughout the day. Here.
Look. No, seriously, look around. Did anybody see a piece of paper with my notes on it?
For what's next, travel with us on Talk 96.3 and 103.7 with Tom Lamprecht.
Welcome back in, Tom and Benny, and it is July 19th, 2022. 68 years ago today, 1954, Elvis Presley had his very first single released by Sun Records. Want to take a guess what the name of it was? What was that first hit song? No, it was
Love
not.
Me Tender?
No, it was not. It was not You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog either. It
Jailhouse
was
Rock.
That's All Right Mama.
I should know that.
What was side B? If you didn't know the first side A, you're not going to know side B. Blue Moon of Kentucky. Taking a look at your weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies tonight. A stray shower or thunderstorm is possible. Low around 73. Tomorrow, sunny with a few clouds. A shower is possible. High around 92. And overall, it looks pretty good. Lots of sunshine. The best chance of a thunderstorm looks like it will come on Friday with isolated storms.
Speaking of Elvis, my brother has them now, but my mother had 2 original Elvis albums. One of them, G.I. Blues. And it's kind of neat, pull out those old albums, play them every
I wonder
now
if they're
and then.
worth anything now.
I don't know. But she certainly coveted them because she loves some Elvis.
Loves some Elvis. Well, that's not uncommon. Lots of people loved Elvis. Taking a look at your weather forecast sponsor, that would be Ironwood Country Club. Whether you're looking to spend your summer poolside, courtside, or greenside, Ironwood Golf and Country Club offers a variety of memberships tailored to fit your lifestyle with no initiation fee required. Headed to the beach, pack your clubs. Ironwood members receive reciprocal golf and dining privileges at the Beaufort Club in Beaufort and Compass Point Golf Club and Magnolia Greens located near Wilmington. For more information, contact Membership Director Jenna Doyle. Her number is 252-752-4653. Join in the fun at Ironwood today, a part of the Renaissance Golf Group. Interesting story out of ECU Health. They've announced a partnership with Acadia Healthcare to build a new behavioral health hospital in Greenville. It's supposed to be operational in the spring of 2025. In a media release this morning, ECU announced the state-of-the-art 144-bed behavioral health hospital in the medical district of Greenville, less than a mile from the ECU Health Medical Center. It will include 24 inpatient beds for children and adolescents with mental health needs. So it looks like there's going to be 2 different parties that will each invest around. I can't tell the way this is written if ECU and Acadia are each going to invest $65 million or that's the total. But anyway, it's going to be a large, nice facility. If you're familiar with Greenville, the new facility would be located where Allen Road intersects with the McGregor Downs Road. So not too far from the main hospital, just down the road, less than a mile from where the hospital is located.
Yeah, that's sorely needed. Anyone that's, I've experienced a need, family need years ago, after a traumatic brain injury, and there's just nowhere for people that are having a mental health crisis to go in eastern North Carolina. And it's, it's been that way for a while. So this is something that's really needed in this area.
Now here's what's going to be, and I'm not trying to stir the pot here, but it's going to be interesting to see if there's any controversy, because one of the things that ECU will need to obtain to build this is a certificate of need. Now, I doubt if there's going to be any issues with them getting the certificate of need, but there's going to be a lot of people that say, oh, there you go again. If you're one of the big boys, you get to say this is what we're going to do, and that they just open the doors for you.
I would think a certificate of need would be a slam dunk for that.
I would think so too.
But at the same time, if the private sector is not on its own doing it, then because it's I hate to say it, but it appears that mental health care is not very popular because it's just. Or maybe it just shows the growing problem we have in the area that just hadn't been addressed.
Well, there's a lot of people that have made a lot of money off of the whole mental health industry and the government handouts.
I think
for
it's been
that mental health.
I think it's been some.
You're talking about probably nationwide billions of dollars.
A lot of money that's been misapplied and mishandled for sure.
The accountability is not where it needs to be. Washington Times is reporting House Republicans want to haul in Department of Energy officials to examine the Biden administration's handling of the Strategic Petroleum Reserves. Now, we've talked about this, and now the Republicans want to do something about it. Recent overseas sales of domestic stock out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, even selling part of that reserve to communist China. Now, the first question that comes to mind is, why would you possibly do this? I mean, it's hard to imagine why even a lame brain like, I'm sorry, am I being callous and disrespectful?
Well, even Democrats are using those terms now. So I mean,
but even for Joe Biden, I mean, you've got to ask yourself, why would Joe do such a thing apart from the idea that he's either being blackmailed or paid off?
Yeah, and I'm not certainly not defending him, and I think anyone that's listening to me would say that I hadn't said many things positive about Joe Biden. But I don't know. I've read a few articles about this, and I'm not sure of how it really works when they release from the reserves. But if it goes to the open market, what control does the federal government have at that point? You know, if they just release those reserves to the open petroleum market to be used wherever. I don't know. Maybe not.
Why do we? Well, here's the thing. Why are they being released at all? I mean, the reason why Joe is being released is to help his political career.
I mean,
to help his party, like, pure and simple. One commenter to this Times article. This is the Washington Times article. I mean, I'm going to read what he said. I'm not going to take credit for it, but it was spot on. He said, America's Strategic Petroleum Reserve was never meant to be used by politicians to save their political butts. It was created and filled to provide the United States with the means to keep the armed forces of the United States mobile in a time of war or the threat of war, and to keep war industries operating. Biden misused the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to save his floundering presidency. The effort failed, and he's still floundering. Moreover, he sold oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to other nations, including Communist China, which happens to be at least an adversary of the United States. He called him an enemy of the United States, certainly an adversary. How much money came to the United States from the sales? Where did it go? Was Hunter Biden involved at any point? Did Joe or Hunter receive any money from the sale? Good questions.
That's a very good question. And the fact that, I mean, Democrats and Republicans alike that know that it doesn't move the needle at all releasing oil from the
If it
reserves.
does, for like 2 weeks, maybe for
max.
a few pennies.
Yeah, max. I mean, it's small potatoes. Trump filled them up to the top. Biden's.
Isn't that how the Democrats operate?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when Governor Dumpling was in office, I mean, she just mortgaged up to the hilt in terms of unemployment, and we get conservatives in there, they got to pay it back.
Yeah, our unemployment fund was broke. Pat McCrory, when he was in office, and the General Assembly put together measures to pay that back to the federal government and made the unemployment fund more healthy.
Yep.
And more healthy when we had some other problems like during the pandemic. Healthier than what a lot of states were.
Here's something to be very, very thankful for. Former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced today that he was ending his congressional campaign after polls showed that he had little chance of securing the Democrat nomination in the newly drawn 10th congressional district. Admitting to having, quote, made mistakes in the past, de Blasio acknowledged in a video posted to his Twitter account that, quote, people are looking for another option.
Yeah.
That's the understatement of the year. To represent them in Congress, and said it was time for him to leave electoral politics and focus on other ways to serve. Yeah, like flying to the moon to find out if it's inhabitable. De Blasio's decision to drop out of the race followed polls showing him far behind other Democrat contenders in the 10th district, which starting in January of 2023 will cover lower Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn. One recent poll conducted by a left-wing Working Families Party indicated that de Blasio had just 3% of support of likely primary voters.
I'm actually personally a little disappointed because it gave us some low-hanging fruit for when he ran. I mean, because he's going to say some stupid things, and it just kind of gave us some easy material. But he's out now.
Well, don't expect whoever wins that primary to be any.
Yeah, it'll be another AOC probably.
Yeah. Oh,
type.
yeah. How bad can it get? I mean, but de Blasio was just a dimwit. I mean, he was not only a liberal, but he was not a smart liberal. I mean, remember when he went on and tried to get people to get vaccinated by offering them a free hamburger and French fries? And he went on a public service announcement, eating a hamburger and French fries. Go get your vaccination and get a free hamburger.
Yeah, that went over about as well as what Elizabeth Warren, drinking a beer.
Drinking her beer, talking to her husband. Hey, buddy, want a beer?
Well, I gotta have respect for her husband to stay with her. Either that or, well, we won't go there.
Yeah, I love you, honey. Every time
I call her the pretendian. Well, I'm sure her husband does a lot of pretending, if you know what I mean.
According to the Kentucky Courier Journal, it's probably the Lexington Courier Journal. Kentucky Republicans had something to celebrate this week. The State Board of Elections announced the number of registered GOP voters surpassed registered Democrats for the first time, 1,612,060 Republicans to 1,609,000 Democrats. After a century and a half, the birthplace of Lincoln has finally aligned with the party of Lincoln. Republican Secretary of State Michael Adams said of the numbers. Just 40, now this is how bad the Democrats have it. Just 40 years ago, Democrats made up 68% of registered voters in Kentucky. More than double the 28% more than double the 28% of Republicans. 68% Democrats, 28% Republicans. Republicans, for the first time in the history of Kentucky, now have more registered voters than the Democrats.
Well, maybe that means Mitch McConnell's seat is safe.
Well, it might. It probably would. It certainly means Rand Paul is safe. He is seeking a third term. The majority of people in Kentucky realize that their beliefs are best represented by the Republican Party, Rand Paul said. Just since Joe Biden took office, I'm trying to see those numbers here. Yeah, since he took office, the Democrats, and that's just, January of last year, Democrats have lost almost 58,000 registered voters. Republicans have gained almost 34,500 voters. So, Joe, you're not helping out. I mean, it's really interesting how the voters are fleeing from the Democrats in mass numbers. And, there's going to be some people that would. Are we there?
Lost you there for a second.
I disappeared. Apparently, the Democrats are upset with what I was saying.
I thought Clark hit the dump button because he was preparing for me.
But listen, I mean, the Democrats, people are fleeing the Democrats. There's a few old people that are probably saying, I'm not going to change, I'm never going to change. And there are those who are the AOC, Cory Bush type that are just ultra liberal. They're buying into the progressives. But the average American is saying enough is enough.
Wouldn't you suspect that most Democrats are leaving and going independent and or unaffiliated, depending on what it's called and what state? I mean, I would not think most Democrats are going Republican. I think maybe the more new voters are going Republican than certainly Democrat. But the ones that are leaving the Democrat Party, don't you think they're probably going unaffiliated or independent?
Well, this statistic that came out of the Republican Party of Kentucky says that since Joe took office, they've lost 58,000 Democrats. The Republicans have gained 34,500, and others is 16,867. I don't know if that includes, people that are just saying independent, unaffiliated. Right. Unaffiliated isn't really a party. Yes, obviously those other. I mean, they're losing. The Democrats are losing more than the Republicans are gaining. So obviously, a segment of those leaving the Democratic Party are going somewhere other than just the Republican Party.
And for the Republicans, I mean, either you love or hate Donald Trump. I mean, regardless of that, you gotta believe that the new voters coming to the Republican Party is all because of Donald Trump. I mean, he's brought more people to the table that didn't vote.
Well, I think the individual that has brought more people to the Republican Party in the last couple of years has been Joe Biden.
Joe
for
Biden,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, just like Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter did wonders for the Republican Party, and Joe Biden is Jimmy Carter 2.0. The happiest man in the United States is Jimmy Carter because he's no longer the worst president in the history of the country. Hey, speaking of Donald Trump, new numbers out between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. We'll have that when we get back.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
You know that moment when you realize your hair color is way past its prime? Or that you need a change and you hope it comes in the form of perfectly sun-kissed highlights? And at Fantastic Sam's, we offer real salon services at real people prices. Our color specialists can do it all. They make grays disappear, layer in subtle highlights, or help you finally find that perfect shade of red. All for real reasonable prices.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers. Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
Hi, I'm Richard Langley, and after helping my grandmother with an iPad she received as a gift, I realized how many other older adults may also have challenges with their own technology.
Happy Grandma specializes in helping with any tech issue you may be experiencing. Whether it's setting up a new computer or TV, having issues with the printer or Wi-Fi, or showing you how to use your tech, we want to help you. To make it easier, we come directly to you with a smile on our face.
When tech gets tough.
When tech gets tough.
When tech gets tough.
When tech gets tough, get happy.
Happy Grandma Senior Tech Support.
Now, folks, look, they keep talking about a pipeline, a magical cash pipeline, and that's not going to bring down inflation. It's not going to bring down gas prices. Only changing my terrible policies can do that.
Someone hacked the teleprompter. Turn it off. Turn it off.
The only cash pipeline that's open right now is the one that's dumping our money into Ukraine.
Turn off his mic.
Cutting through the confusion to bring you clarity with Tom and Benny on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. The Washington Examiner is reporting that Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis are effectively tied in Michigan among Republican voters in a fresh poll suggesting the former president may not be as invincible as previously presumed in a 2024 White House primary. In a survey from Glengarriff, that's a polling group, Trump led DeSantis 45% to 42% in a hypothetical head-to-head matchup with 12% undecided. The former president's vulnerability in a primary against DeSantis in Michigan, a key battleground state, is evident among college-educated Republicans and Republicans who support the GOP first and Trump second. Among college-educated Republicans, DeSantis led Trump 51% to 37%. Among party-first Republicans, the Florida governor led the former president 53% to 33%. Keeping Trump in the game are his advantages among Republican voters without a college degree and GOP voters who support the former president first and the party second. Among the former, Trump led DeSantis 55% to 29%. Among the latter, he topped the Florida governor 71% to 24%. So it's going to be interesting. The question is, does Ron DeSantis, does he have his eye on the White House? I'm not sure. I mean, only he knows for sure, right? But
well, I got to believe the amount of money that he's raising for the next governor race. I mean, he's going to win.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
he's not even. I mean, in the polling,
and he is raising an awful lot of money, getting money from support of former Trump supporters, big dollars.
Yeah, you talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and they're not doing that for him to run for governor. I got to believe he is on point to run, and he's just waiting to see what Trump will do, is to see if it's going to be a joint effort or a head-to-head campaign.
Well, and of course he does have this governor's race, so I mean he essentially can't say anything until the governor's race is out of the way.
Yeah.
But look, don't email me and tell me I'm a turncoat. I love Trump. I love what he did for America, putting America first, getting the swamp as empty as he could. You know, I think even he didn't realize how nasty the swamp was and how these people are just total turncoats. People you think, well, they'll be good employees of the federal government, and they weren't. They were turncoats against Trump. I say all that, but I would also say I would love to see, as I've said before, Donald Trump become the king maker rather than the king. Mm-hmm. I think, if we got a DeSantis in there who's very similar to Trump in many ways, maybe not as caustic, but certainly knows how to play hardball, we'd have a candidate that potentially could be there for the next 8 years.
And there's some people talking about today, matter of fact, on Just the News, and I've seen some other outlets that, suspecting that Governor Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, may be hinting around at running for the 2024 nomination.
I see her as perhaps a VP. I don't see her as a presidential candidate. I've been wrong plenty of times before, but I think it's, the two people that are going to be contending for it are Donald Trump and DeSantis.
Yeah, and most of the time, if there's a top of the ticket that's a governor or someone like Donald Trump that's really not into politics, but oftentimes when there's a governor at the top of the ticket, they've got to get somebody that's a Washington insider. I mean, yeah, they a lot of times they go for a state, maybe in Ohio or Pennsylvania or some key swing state, but oftentimes that vice president, just like Mike Pence, has a congressional, was in Congress, and so for Nikki Haley to run, if she does run, who's she gonna get?
Who is Liz Cheney running against? I can't remember her name, but Liz Cheney is getting trounced.
Yeah, the good people of Wyoming.
The person she's running against has got 50-some% of the vote, and she's got like 24% of the vote. And I guess the others are undecided or going in some other direction. But she's getting trounced. And what's interesting is, a lot of people outside of Wyoming don't realize that Liz Cheney was born in Michigan, grew up in Arlington, Virginia, and her folks owned a place out in Wyoming, but she's never really lived there. And I was thinking about it on the way over when I was to the studio this afternoon. If Liz Cheney loses, do you think she's going to go back to Wyoming? Not a chance. She's probably in the same house she lived in before she ran for the House of Wyoming.
Yeah, she might go back to Teton County, I guess, Jackson, Wyoming, somewhere that's a little bit more liberal than the rest of the state. But Liz Cheney, she won Wyoming purely on her dad's coattails. Right. He's lived in Wyoming for some time, and the fact that outside of Teton County and some other liberal places, which is very few liberal places in Wyoming, Wyoming people are more. they're more on the libertarian side of Republican conservatives. Right. They just want to be left alone. And even the fact that Liz Cheney, not only she's anti-Trump on this anti-Trump campaign, she's one of these kind of controlling Republicans that really just want to control everything. And that's not Wyoming. No. That's not what the people of Wyoming, Montana, or Idaho is all about. And I know several out there.
Yeah, live free. Leave us alone, lady. Washington Times is reporting Biden is preparing to declare a climate emergency, saying lawmakers have spoken to the president and are urging him to take executive action now that Congress negotiations for climate change have fallen apart. Joe Manchin has basically said, no, we're not going to go there. Democrat lawmakers expect Mr. Biden to announce a climate emergency as early as this week. White House officials, however, were coy about whether Biden would do it Wednesday when he visits the shuttered Brayton Point Power Plant in Somerset, Massachusetts, to talk about climate change. I don't know the exact words the president is going to use, but I think Biden is poised to use his commander-in-chief authority to invoke a domestic mobilization against the climate crisis, said Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts. What climate crisis? What climate crisis? A White House official refused to say if Biden would make the declaration in Massachusetts, telling the Washington Times they didn't want to get ahead of the president's remarks. Yeah, because you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. Senate Democrats are urging Biden to act unilaterally now that Joe Manchin, a West Virginia Democrat and powerful moderate, has dropped his support for a new clean energy tax breaks and a party-line spending bill, killing any chance of legislation action on a climate bill. In other words, let's bypass the business as it is to be carried out within the halls of Congress, and let's form a dictatorship. Let's go back to Obama, who's really running this administration anyway. I've got a pen and a phone. That's the same idea. Let's just make it up as we go along. The Massachusetts power plant, formerly one of the largest electricity producers in New England, is undergoing a conversion from coal to wind power and will serve as a backdrop for Biden's call for more renewables in the power grid. I'm really looking forward to these liberals in New England freezing their collective butts off, because that is exactly what is going to happen. The president will deliver remarks on tackling the climate crisis and seizing the opportunity of clean energy future to create jobs, lower costs for families. Lower costs. Does that sound familiar at all?
Yeah.
Pass Obamacare, and what was it, $2,500 per family?
The average family, $2,500 per year.
Unbelievable. This whole idea that I'm going to declare an emergency is so far off base, but it sounds eerily familiar to Cooper's never-ending illegal COVID emergency. Mm-hmm. That I'm going to just declare an emergency. What BS? I mean, this is total BS.
Well, I think this is. This tells us what's going to happen in the next few months. We're getting ready to see some all-out executive orders. They don't have Joe Manchin. I mean, he has clearly drawn a line in the sand. He knows what this has all done, all this excessive COVID spending that didn't go to COVID. It went to a lot of other things. Some of it went to COVID. But I think you're going to see some executive orders here coming pretty soon. I mean, it's a Hail Mary they're going to do and try to take control before they lose control.
We got to run. We'll be right back.
And we're on location today at Fabric and Home Furnishings in Arlington Village here in Greenville. One of my favorite people. We've got Lisa Pendry here. And Lisa, big news. You've been working on the store. It looks fantastic. You finally have finished the transformation of the store. You've got your Norwalk gallery open. Give us the whole story here.
We are excited. It's been a big process. It's taken us a while, but now all of our renovations complete, from paint colors to little elegant showroom areas to highlight everything we offer here at Fabric and Home Furnishings.
And we say that it's a furniture store and so much more, and of course that means you also have designers on staff. So tell us about that. You got some new folks.
I do. I've got some new designers that we've added to our team that can come out to your home, walk you through the whole process, help you as much as you need us to pull your home together.
And there's a big party coming on June 16th. You've got your Norwalk Furniture Grand Opening Gala, and it's going to be a big party here in the store, and that sounds like a lot of fun. Tell us about it.
It is. We have dignitaries like Henry Hinton.
I'll be here.
And P.J. Conley is going to come, our mayor. Lots of fun people. All of my designers that shop here are going to be here in the community, and we're going to have some champagne and some hors d'oeuvres, representatives from Norwalk, and just have a big night of fun and festivities and education on what we offer.
I'll tell you, the store is packed right now. I know a lot of furniture stores are still having trouble getting inventory, but you guys have a lot of stuff people can buy right off the floor.
We do, Henry. We invested in a warehouse, and we've added lots of inventory so you can just have it delivered or pick it up the day you buy it. So lots of sofas, chairs, everything in performance fabric so you can enjoy your furniture.
And you started 12 months same as cash.
We did start that so we can help with everything that's going on in the world right now.
All right, Fabric and Home Furnishings here in Arlington Village. Don't forget the big party, the grand opening gala for the Norwalk Gallery, coming up on June 16th at 5:30, big ribbon cutting, and it's going to be a big party. So I'll be here. You need to be here too. Thanks to Lisa for the update.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you farm to fork beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to fork beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Empty lots at car dealers everywhere, except here. The selection you want is at Greenville Nissan. And during the Nissan Thrill of the Drive sales event, buy a new Nissan with financing as low as 0.9%. The versatile Nissan Rogue, the all-new Pathfinder, or gas-saving cars like Nissan Sentra and Altima. And yes, we have trucks. Buy the new Nissan Titan.